Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riverfront. This is episode number 437 of the world's most dangerous podcast. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. This is also episode number 2 of this week. Joining me this week, he's not my friend. I don't like him at all, but I have to spend time with him far too often. But since I have to be afflicted with Nate Dotson, then you do as well. I'm kidding. He's the man, the myth, the legend. How are you, Nate?
I am stupendous. Somebody has to rein you in from time to time. I'm going to bring the spirits up around here, so you're welcome.
It's funny, it's not funny. He talks about bringing the spirits up. Not more than 2 minutes ago, I was not happy. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It has nothing to do with Phil Castellini or the Reds or Luis Castillo or whatever. We just recorded this podcast and had a blast. I mean, literally a ton of laughs. I really had a great time. It was one of the most fun episodes that no one will ever see because this garbage service we're using this week will be the last week of that. I didn't record, so we're doing it again, Nate.
Listen, we had so much fun. We just had to bring it back. There were a couple rough patches that I didn't feel great about. I'm glad that we can get rid of those.
Yeah. Try
this again. I don't know. There's worse things that can happen in my day, I guess, than hanging out with my big bro for another hour.
That's actually true. Talking about baseball and we got to iron out the rough patches from the last one. That was just a practice run, I guess. But anyway, whatever. Let's get into it.
Let's not make a habit of it. Let's not make it a habit of it. I don't want to do this every week, but
this is actually our third podcast of the week, Nate. Our third episode. One's lost to history, I guess. Whatever. That's all right. We're here to talk about the Cincinnati Reds. It's been an interesting week in Reds world. Red Leg Nation, as I like to call it. It's, the trade deadline earlier. If you didn't see our trade deadline episode that we recorded literally at the trade deadline, 6:00 on Tuesday, had 5 of us together. It was a blast. We had a lot of laughs. And, I thought it was a pretty fair recounting of what happened at the trade deadline. We'll talk about some of that in this episode as we kind of go through things. But, we talked about the positives. There were positives. Nick Krall did a great job at the trade deadline. If we concede that he had to trade players, and he probably did for his job. And I think we were fair about the fact that it's a kind of a disgrace that we have to trade guys like Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle because they're good. So anyway, go listen to that. I think it holds up very well. It's in your audio feeds if you listen to the podcast by audio, and it's obviously also on YouTube. Before we go much further, I would say smash that subscribe button while you're here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching YouTube, go on YouTube. Listen, you have consent. Smash that subscribe button, okay? And get those numbers up. I know a lot of you listen to us on the audio feed. It's always going to remain on the audio feed. That's how I listen to almost all of my podcasts. But the kids these days, Nate, they like the rock and roll and the YouTubes.
They love the YouTubes, but always remember, no smashing without consent.
Yes, exactly. You do have consent to smash the subscribe button here and follow us at YouTube. Nate, we're going to get into this, and again, we're going to talk more about the trade deadline and everything that's going on in the Reds world today. But the way we did it this week is something that I think we're going to try to do more often. We discussed after our last show that didn't record. This was fun. It's a good, we've done it occasionally over the years, but this is an all viewer mail episode. Nothing but viewer mail. Mm-hmm. Still going to be able to get into the topics of the week, what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, some of these questions are fantastic, and I'm excited to answer them for a second time.
That's right. As long as the viewers, the listeners, everybody keeps coming correct with these awesome questions, then we can have a good time doing this. Otherwise, this would be a lot more painful than it otherwise would have been.
Right. It's a good thing they were good questions.
Yeah. So let's dive right in.
Let's do that. Now, these questions this week come from, obviously, every week they come from our friends at patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy, where you too can support the podcast. And every week, you get to join us on our Slack channel and all that, and you get to ask questions. We also opened it up this week because it is an all viewer mail episode to our friends at Twitter, twitter.com/RiverfrontCincy, or as they say in the parlance of our times, at Riverfront Cincy. And so we'll get into those. But first, let's go with the Patreon questions. First one comes from our friend Joey Gaditza. Joey Gaditza, if you listen to the show, is from up north. And by up north, I mean the country of Canada. Hey, guys, watching Lodolo, Green, and Ashcraft. That's Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, and I don't know who Ashcraft's first name. Watching those guys twirl 3 consecutive gems is definitely exciting. Is watching these 3 develop before us the most positive thing of this season? The answer to that, certainly going forward, I think is yes. But you want to kind of reflect on that question, Nate?
I think it is a resounding yes. I loved, Joey mentioned watching them throw 3 consecutive gems. The stat that popped up said that since the earned run became an official stat in 1913, the Reds are the only MLB team to start 3 straight rookies and have them combine for 18 plus strikeouts and no more than 1 earned run allowed. I mean, these guys are going to dictate the future success of this franchise, maybe for the next 7 to 10 years if we're lucky. And they have been so far above any reasonable expectations. It's insane. I mean, what Hunter Green has been doing is absurd. The last month, he's had a 2.7 ERA over 4 games with a 1.1 whip. Nick Lodolo, 3.88 expected ERA in the season. And then Graham Ashcraft has been pitched into the 8th twice this season. He's got that 3.72 expected ERA, and he's just smelling salts right before he takes them out every inning, which is hilarious. He's like all the good things about Kenny Powers and none of the bad. I'm all in on these young guys. It's 100% a reason to be pumped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ashcraft close to not a perfect game, a complete game this week, and just it was it's fun to watch, and I kind of needed those 3.
Yeah.
After what we saw at the trade deadline, I kind of needed those 3 to kind of step up, and they did it. They, just so much fun to watch. Hunter Green was most recent start was the first game I watched after the trade deadline fiasco. But because I'm stuck here. I can't. It's appointment television to watch Hunter Green. It just is, and so without question to me, those 3 guys the rest of the way, that's the thing to watch. Plenty of other things to watch, as we'll talk about, but that's really that's the most exciting thing to watch, those 3.
Yeah.
I guess I should say that I'm critical of the Reds. We're going to continue being critical of the Reds occasionally when we need to be. If you think that everything's rosy, you're just not been paying attention for the last 3 decades. But there are some things that are rosy, and this is one of them. And I will listen to no slander about these 3 guys. And it's funny, I mention those guys sometimes on Twitter, and it happened last week. It blows my mind. Okay, first of all, yes, I would like to have Castillo and Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle with those guys, but I've made a comment about how those 3, they're pretty good. And I had more than one person say to me, well, yeah, I trust Lodolo and Ashcraft, but Hunter Green, he's shown me nothing. First of all, he's 14 years old. He's a kid. And if you don't think that Hunter Green, and I love Lodolo and Ashcraft, but if you don't think Hunter Green is the most talented of that group, I don't know what to tell you. You're not watching the same game I'm watching. Hunter Green, to me, I'm not saying he's going to be like these guys, but he is the only one of the 3 that has the talent level, I think, to kind of reach up and be a Luis Castillo type, a Johnny Cueto type, a Jose Rio type. And those are the 3 best Cincinnati Reds pitchers in the last 3 decades. Hunter Green can be those guys. I'm not saying he will be. I don't know, but if you don't think all 3 of those guys are the most exciting thing ever, man, just I don't know. Go watch the Bengals. I guess I don't know what to tell you, man. They're great.
I'll take Mike Minor. It's fine.
Yikes. All right, next question comes from our buddy Seth Shaner. And this is a good question. I really like this question. Again, these first questions come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Seth asks this: does it make me weak if acceptance is seeping in? I'm feeling a need to accept my Castellini overlords and shift hope for the Reds' success to seeing what Marte has done. And of course, he's talking about our new best friend down there who came over in the Luis Castillo trade, Noel V. Marte. Let's see. I'm feeling a need to accept my Castellini overlords and shift hope for the Reds' success to see what Marte has done in Dayton. Please help me understand my feelings. I'll briefly say something here, and then I'll let you answer, Nate. I think, frankly, Seth, buddy, you're just going to have to accept it. If you don't have to accept it. If you don't want to accept it, then don't watch this team because they're not going to be good for the next couple of years. It's just a fact. Again, we're going to tell you the truth. But acceptance kind of needs to seep in because this is who this team is, given what Castellini has done to this, the Castellinis have done to this organization. And so if you want to enjoy baseball, and listen, it's baseball. It's supposed to be fun, right? It's a diversion. There are things to be excited about. So Marte in Dayton, what incredible debut for that guy. My goodness. So Seth, I'm with you, man. Those are my feelings as well. We're not going to ignore the nonsense the Castellinis have kind of dumped on us. But if you want to watch baseball, and you definitely want to watch baseball because you're watching and listening to the Riverfront right now, and only the most hardcore are still following the Red season. So yeah, no, I'm with you, Seth. Nate?
Yeah, no, that's really well said. I mean, it's baseball. It's just sports. And granted, we care more about this franchise than it seems like most people do. But that said, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. Revel in the highs as long as you can, whenever you can. And when the lows come, they'll sting for a minute and then just let them roll right off. So root for the guys we've got and enjoy whatever fun they allow us to have. It's baseball.
It's baseball. What are you going to do? I mean, again, we're going to tell you the truth, but there are things to be excited about. There are things that are really fun about the next couple of years to watch if you adjust your expectations. Okay, we're not going to be competing for championships, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy Marte. It doesn't mean you can enjoy these these new prospects plus the pitchers plus Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson and as Kent Brockman would say, I for one welcome our new insect overlords. little Simpsons reference for you there, Nate.
I guess.
Next question from Jerry Saduth. Jerry asks, Chad, why do you hate the Hall? Seriously, though, the Reds ownership has won one vital thing. They've successfully convinced too many fans they're just too poor to pay for talent. Can this be changed? If so, how? Two things there. Why do I hate the Hall? I love the Hall that the Reds got for Luis Castillo and Tyler. I love the Hall. I've really enjoyed making fun of people saying, oh, we got a Hall. As opposed to, we actually had a Luis Castillo, an all-star, but everybody wants the Hall. Reds fans, because they have this Stockholm syndrome that ownership over the years has convinced them that the Reds have to trade all their good players. They have to sell. And that goes into the second part of Jerry's question, which is that, yes, they have successfully convinced too many fans they're too poor to pay for talent. Can this be changed? Yes, it can and will be changed, is my answer to that. I'm not going to quit making fun of the Hall because I can't believe that fans care more about getting a Hall than having good players. But and I just think it's hilarious. But my opinion is, as soon as an owner in Cincinnati, whether it's the Castellinis or whoever, decides they're really truly going to try to win, Reds fans will be back the very next day. Attendance is garbage this year. We had the sell the team Bob thing. I mean, fans are out on the Reds right now more than they have been in years. But the very second that some owner, and it could be the Castellinis, we have 16 years of evidence saying it's not going to be, but as soon as someone says we're really going to try to compete here, like the Padres are doing, for example, Reds fans will be back the next day. Mm-hmm. And well, first of all, I'll let you answer that. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think, Nate?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Jerry wants to know what they can do. Well, they have to at least convince us that this trade deadline was step one, meaning that there is a real plan in place and that they're going to see it through, which I'm going to choose to believe because I value happiness and sanity, and we have no evidence saying that it's going to be that way. But I'm not going to go through life as the guy that, is just always looking at the bottom half of the glass. I'll do that most of the time. But what they need to do if they want to get butts in the seats and they want to get the fans to start rallying around them again is step one, they just did trade deadline. Get a lot of great young talent. Step two, extend the young talent you have. Get Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson. Buy out those arbitration years. Get a few years of free agency after that. Explore similar deals with Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft, even though the pitchers are risky. but it would signal to them and to the community that, they're a real part of the future, and this is what we're building upon. After that, have an accelerated timeline for the guys in the minors. See what you have in McLean, Steer, Encarnacion Strand, any of the other guys that you think might be a part of the 2024 team. Don't let them just linger in the lower rungs of the minor leagues. Bring them up, be aggressive, see what you got. Other than that, they're going to have to make some moves in the offseason. They are going to have to pay for some talent, get 2 or 3 productive vets, in the bullpen and in the lineup, position players. And then the last thing, and this is probably the biggest thing for me, is they cannot be sellers at next year's trade deadline. Think back to the theory behind what they did in 2019, if not the players that they acquired, but some guys that can contribute for the following year that you can get at a good price that are not named Trevor Bauer and Mike Moustakas, to make 2024 a year where you actually expect to turn the corner. Maybe they don't make the playoffs, maybe they don't make a run, but they got a lot of exciting young talent, and they need to put some people around them. Other than that, lifetime contract for Joseph Daniel Votto. That wins me over. Bobby Bonilla style, except he actually wears a uniform.
All right. First of all, I got to circle back. If the Reds aren't sellers at next year's trade deadline, how can they get a haul? Come on.
What if they trade for a player whose name is Hall?
Ooh.
Bring back Bill Hall? Does that work?
Oh, man. Reds killer Bill Hall. Okay. Everything you just said is correct. I do not, and I will not believe that the Castanets will do that, but they could change their mind. They change their minds every 18 months and go a different direction. So maybe, but the overall, the larger point is that, you know what? There is a path to being competitive in the it's not the near future, but it's not that far off. If they want to, they got some pitching, they got the haul in the minor leagues, some two decent and only 2 maybe decent position players in the big leagues right now. So but just show us that you're trying. I mean, I think the Bengals are a perfect example, and I think maybe part of the reason why Reds fans have kind of, it's so easy for them to believe that we're too poor, we can't compete, is because the Bengals have been awful for so many years and the Reds have been awful. And so it's kind of, fans have been dumped on so much that it's no surprise that they think, well, we can't compete. We never compete in Cincinnati. And so, but you see what happens with the Bengals, 1 year of competing. Well, not quite just 1 year, but pretty much. I mean, but it's certainly 1 year plus of the franchise actually knowing what they're doing and really trying to compete. And they have 28,000, 30,000 people at a practice. So if the Reds will just decide they're going to win, and maybe the Castellini saw the lines around the block for Juan Soto's debut out in San Diego and say,
Brandon Drury's debut.
Sorry, that's right. Brandon Drury, who, first of all, rest in peace, Brandon Drury. Home run on the first pitch he saw for the Padres. Go, Brandon Drury. So if Phil Castellini or whoever's running the team these days wakes up tomorrow and says, we should do that, well, the Reds fans will be back. I firmly believe it. I will never not believe it. The Cincinnati fans are hungry for a winner. All right, James Urban next. James Urban, because I made the mistake of asking over on Patreon for goofy questions. He says he has 2 of them. First, what would be your death row meal? Nate, you're on death row for murdering Phil Castellini.
Whoa.
Don't, Nate, as your legal advisor, do not murder Phil Castellini or anyone else.
Okay.
But if you're on death row, what's your final meal?
All right. So I enjoy these goofy questions. My meal, you're going to start me off with a little gnocchi appetizer. Love it. Maybe some freshly baked bread. Then you're going to hit me with a little 12-ounce ribeye cooked just a smidge above rare. A side of roasted potatoes. Maybe some Brussels sprouts. I don't know what the budget is here. I don't know how much food I'm allowed to have. If there is a limit, I don't know. Then you're going to finish me off with some salted caramel ice cream for dessert. And then just dump me in the river, baby. Just get rid of the body. I'm good to go.
Oh, I love it. You can tell that during lockdown, Nate decided to become a chef. That's the first thing, and he's a very good one. I can attest. But let me just say this: I had intended to say that I wanted a Sky Rosa for my final meal, but you've taught me. I'll have what he's having. To paraphrase a famous movie quote.
You eat the Sky Rosa if you are trying to get to death's doorstep.
Yeah, so if you want to hurry in to get to the final, what happens when you're on death row? Maybe start with that Sky Rosa. All right, second question from James Urban: what is the greatest television show of all time? I have an answer for this. Your answer that you're going to give is probably I could support your answer, but for me,
how do you know what my answer is?
I'm just guessing. We're kind of, we've never answered these before. Gosh, what a time to be alive. We get to do 2 of these shows today. For me, my answer is Sherlock. This is the BBC show starring Benedict Cumberbatch and like the Hobbit guy. And I don't know. I think he's a Hobbit. I don't know. Bilbo
Martin
Baggins
Freeman,
or something.
I think his name.
Yeah, I don't know if he played. I don't know. I watched the. I took a trip overseas and watched on the way back. I watched the first of the Lord of the Rings movies. There, Nate. There's some hobbits in it.
I don't want to hear it.
Anyway, so but Sherlock is there's only like 9 or 10 episodes. They don't have seasons; they call them series, but they have 3 seasons that are I think 3 episodes each. Maybe one of them has 4, but 9 or 10 episodes. They're each like an hour and a half long, so they're mini movies. But it is the best thing I've ever seen on television. Although I'm a little bit of a I hate to say this out loud because I shouldn't say this in public, but a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes nerd, a little bit of a fanboy, Nate. I don't know if you knew that, but I did go to 221B Baker Street when I was in London there a couple of weeks ago, much to the chagrin of my family. But that's what I say. Yeah. Sherlock, it's amazing. Nate, what's your answer?
I can't confirm. If you haven't seen Sherlock, go do it. You will not regret it. I wanted to say a show that was, was in the public consciousness more than any show that I can ever recall, Game of Thrones, but the last 2 seasons of that one just ruined it for me. So I will go with The Wire. If you haven't seen The Wire, it is I don't even know how to describe it so much as it is a TV show about the city of Baltimore. And it's the criminal side, the police side, the political side, and it's got Idris Elba, so that means it's definitely good. Some of the best writing, some of the best character development, The Wire, for sure.
Yeah, incredible, and really, other than Sherlock, The Wire is my number 2. I don't know. It's just it's perfectly crafted. It's well written, like you said. It's just it's completely amazing. I don't have anything bad to say. I went to Baltimore. I went to Baltimore last weekend. Did you know that?
Nobody's perfect.
Oh man, that's not very nice. But yeah, The Wire. That's what I would say. If we had this conversation before, I imagine that you might have said something like, Sherlock didn't maybe land the plane in this last season like they maybe could have. And I think some people would say that about The Wire as well, but still, the 5 seasons of The Wire are just unbelievable. Just I'm going to rewatch it. Amazing. So good question. Any other honorable mentions you want to add in there, Nate?
The one I would throw out is probably It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
I mean, not quite not a lot of similarities between the 3, but 17 seasons or something like that, 15 seasons. I don't know. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Nate convinced me to watch that, and it was amazing. I'd maybe throw out also The Sopranos, which we're rewatching right now, which is great. And
it's also a good rule of thumb: more Danny DeVito in your life is a good thing.
Oh my goodness, yes, please, more Danny DeVito. All right, here. This is an example of the issues around our Patreon family. Every week we say, "Come join our Patreon family." What you don't understand is that we all have deep-seated issues, and that's maybe misery loves company. Maybe that's why we enjoy each other. We had 2 questions this week from Brian Bowdy and Rich Thompson that related to the 1982 Cincinnati Reds. So let's take these together. Brian says, which current position players on the active roster, not the injured list, would have started for the 1982 Reds? Rich asks, how do you think that this current roster compares with the 1982 Reds? Will history say that the 2022 Reds are less than memorable and or unremarkable than the 82 Reds? P.S. Remember, we're comparing the likes of Alex Trevino, Paul Householder, and Bruce Bereni. So now the 1982 Reds, for those of you that weren't around, I was not following baseball yet in 82. I was around. Nate wasn't. They finished with 101 losses. 61-101, finished in last place in the National League's Western Division, managed by John McNamara, who actually wasn't a bad manager, but he was fired and Russ Nixon took his place, and they were just really, really, really bad. So I think the way to answer this question, Nate, is two ways. First of all, to Rich's question, are the Reds going to lose more games than the 1982 Reds, 101?
I think it's in play, but I don't think that they will do it.
They're not on pace to do it now.
No, but it's closer than I'm comfortable with.
I think they will, and this is not just me being pessimistic, but just Castillo's gone, Miley's gone. We don't love Tommy Pham, but he and Naquin are gone. Drury is gone. I've lost a lot. I'm afraid they're not going to be able to. I don't think they're going to lose 115 games, but they could get 101. So the other part of that question that I think is really interesting is which Reds on the current team could have started for the 1982 current position players, he asked. So let's go position by position. We'll start with catcher.
It's not great.
Say that. We should say that right from the beginning. I would have thought this was going to be like not that difficult, but this is not good, is it, Nate? It's the 22 Reds don't stack up that well.
Having to litigate this twice in a day is not recommended for the soul.
I know, man. Oh, man. Let's go position by position. Yeah, catcher. 1982, Alex Trevino. And perhaps Brian was smart by the way he wrote this question. It's not on the injured list because Tyler Stevenson is obviously the answer, but whoever the current catcher is, Austin Romine is maybe now, but the Paper Factory, Mike Papirski or Kalevs Villavalario or whoever is catcher for the Reds versus Alex Trevino. It's Alex Trevino.
Somehow. It might be the only time in a question of who was better, Alex Trevino or another person. He's actually been the answer.
Yeah, Alex Trevino, 120 games, 251 batting average, 318 on base, 74 OPS plus. I mean, he's one of the – again, if Alex Trevino's family's listening, I'm sorry, but he's one of the worst Reds catchers in my lifetime, and he's better than any non-Tyler Stevenson catcher the Reds have. All right, I'm going to drop this next one on you. I want you to do this one because I don't want to do this one. First base, Nate.
That's rude, first off.
Danny Dreesen, 1982, Danny Dreesen. 2022, Joey Votto.
So it depends on how you want to answer this. If you were going by beginning of the season, looking at previous years, who are you going to be starting? Then it's easy. It's Joey Votto as the future Hall of Famer. But if you are looking at this from the end of each season and who had a better season, who gave your team a better chance to win, Dan Dreesen had a 119 OPS plus. He had a pretty good year. Votto could end up there, but he's got some work to do. It's at 97 right now, not stellar defense. I mean, the answer is Joey. If you're creating a roster, you want Joey Votto on there, even at this point in his career. But I didn't enjoy looking at those numbers and having to actually think about it for a minute.
Yeah, no, Dan Dreesen was good that year. Maybe the best Reds hitter that year. And those of you of my vintage will remember, well, actually, I don't remember this part. Before me, Dreesen was the guy who made Tony Perez expendable on the Big Red Machine. You know, he's a good player. He was a good player. He's not Joey Votto. I don't care what the numbers are. I'm taking Joey Votto, but if you compare 2022 Joey Votto to 1982 Dan Dreesen, I don't like this comparison. But I'm going Joey Votto.
Yeah, I hate this question.
Yeah, awful question. All right, so second base, we're going with Jonathan India. You've heard of that guy in 2022. The second baseman in 1982, Reds Hall of Famer, Ron Oster. Got to be the Hall of Famer, right?
This is probably the only slam dunk for me in the whole roster. Jonathan India is just having a better season. And that's saying a lot because Jonathan India not having a great season, at least not until here recently.
But Ronnie Oster is a Reds Hall of Famer.
For reasons unknown.
I loved Ron Oster growing up because there was a baseball card. I've told this story on the show before, I think, but there was a baseball card that had like every team had their team leaders back on the baseball card back in the day, and Ron Oster was the team batting average leader at 269, whatever year that was. No, so Reds Hall of Famer, and I like the guy because he played for the Reds for a long time. But yeah, give me Jonathan India. It's not even close. Third base, Nate. I guess we're talking about current Reds. This is an opportunity for us to discuss who the current third baseman is for the Reds. Kyle Farmer. He's not the shortstop
recent
anymore.
News, it's got to be the farm dog at third base for the 2022 Cincinnati Reds. Kyle Farmer is, just by looking at his stats, I've never seen the guy play. Never heard of him until this question was mentioned. So I don't know what kind of hustle and grit he has. But just looking at the numbers, it seems pretty apparent that Kyle Farmer's not good at hitting baseballs.
Oh, don't do that. He's the Heart and Hustle nominee for the Reds or whatever garbage they tweeted. And no, he hustles. I like Kyle Farmer. I shouldn't say that.
For sure.
That's still Kyle Farmer.
Yes. But third base for that 1982 Cincinnati Reds team, a guy you may have heard of, a guy named Johnny Bench. I don't think there is any world where you're not starting Johnny Bench when he's on your team unless
you literally
the following season.
You literally just said there's no universe. That's not the word you use, but in which you don't start Johnny Bench at third base. But I would remind you that the following season, when 9-year-old Chad went to his first Cincinnati Reds game at the glorious Riverfront Stadium that we'll talk about more later, John Bench did not start at third base. It was Wayne Krenchicki. Wayne Krenchicki, who did hit, let it be known, on the 1982 Reds, he did hit 283 that year. His OPS plus that year, 90, which is higher than Kyle Farmer's career high 87 of this year. So the answer is Johnny Bench, obviously, right? And Johnny Bench actually had a pretty good year at age 34 that year.
Yeah, it's not even that close.
Yeah. Can we just briefly, because we want to talk about this, Kyle Farmer has been the shortstop for the Reds for the last 12 years. Why are we putting him at third base? Well, the news this week is I hate to give the Reds credit for anything, but on the heels of Nick Krall doing a really good job, given what he had to do for his job, which was trade, getting a good haul. The fact that the Reds called up Jose Barrero, who has not been great in the minors. He has that hamate injury, and it takes a while to get over that. And he's been playing better recently, but still. But calling him up and saying publicly, this is something the Reds have never done. Mm-hmm. He's our shortstop. We're going to move Kyle Farmer, who Barry Larkin said famously last week they need to put a C on his jersey, make him captain, and sign him to a long-term deal. I'm sorry, I got distracted by Barry. But that's a good piece of business for the Reds. Just give him a chance. And you know what? There's a bunch of shortstops behind you now because Nick Krall went out and got all the shortstop. Sink or swim, Jose Barrero. But give him the rest of this season to play shortstop. I don't want to praise anything the Reds are doing, but given the constraints that the Castellans have put on the front office and management, this last week has been a pretty good week in that sense. And so I completely agree with Jose Barrero, and I hope he plays well.
Yeah, for sure. I think he profiles as the best defensive shortstop of anybody that's any of those guys that are anywhere close to reaching the bigs the next couple of years. So if he can go and be an adequate hitter and show a slick glove, then he can stay. But he probably would not be starting over the 1982 Cincinnati Reds shortstop? A young man named Davey Concepcion.
Oh, Davey Concepcion. Hey, did you see he was at Great American Ballpark this week? I went and hung out with his old teammate Chris Welsh in the booth. Yeah, Dave Concepcion, 34 years old, I think, in 82, but pretty good season. 287 average, 337 on base. Yeah, I mean, I love me some Davey Concepcion.
Jose Barrero's batting 0, so he's obviously no good.
Well, but who did he hit against in his first start at shortstop?
Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah,
come on. It's Cy Young.
Dave Concepcion. He's a Reds Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer. Some people want to claim he's a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. But for me, my generation, which just after the Big Red Machine, Concepcion was our guy because he was the link to the Big Red Machine. He played for the Reds through 88, 89 and played his whole career with the Reds. He was my guy. So I love me some Concepcion. I'm taking him over Jose Barrero. Now, outfield.
Gets ugly quick.
This is where it's maybe kind of even between 82 and 22 now. But then you get to the outfield.
Yeah.
So for the 2022 Reds, your outfielders, I guess at this point we have to choose. Nixon Zell's your center fielder, obviously, and I guess Aquino is your right fielder. And we got Jake Fraley. We got probably Albert Almora Jr.
Yeah.
Probably your left. Let's say Almora is your left fielder. Do we give him the nod over 1982's Eddie Milner?
Eddie Milner had a 99 OPS plus. He had a 716 OPS. Almora's not giving you anywhere close to that.
Yeah, no. That's probably Milner's best year. Eddie Milner famously was the only autograph that I ever got was from Eddie Milner. The only person I ever asked for an autograph at Riverfront Stadium. And promptly a week later, he signed my glove because I was a 9-year-old. Took my glove to the game, right? And a week or two later, I left my glove outside because we're playing catch and left it out in the rain, and the autograph disappeared. So it doesn't matter. I couldn't play baseball very well anyway, so I didn't need that glove. But it's Eddie Milner. Center field, I love me some Nixon Zell. Give me Nixon Zell every single day of the week, unless you're asking about whether he should be better than the 82 Cesar Cedeno.
He's probably Cedeno's the second best player on that team that year.
Cedeno's a guy who came up with Astros, and so a lot of people thought he was going to be a star. Again, I'm showing my age a little bit because I know something about Cesar Cedeno, but that was a good season for him. A really good season for him. After Joey Votto's nemesis, Denny Dreesen, probably the best hitter on the team that season.
Sorry,
so, you got to go with. So that's the 1982 Reds have 2 of the 3 outfielders, but I think in right field, well, I don't know.
I thought this was a surefire win. I just looked at 82, and I saw Paul Householder and his 64 OPS plus. And I was like,
23-year-old Paul Householder. Yeah,
we'll get a slam dunk here. I don't care who it is. It's got to be better than a 64. And I scrolled down, and Naquin's gone. Anybody else we are excited about is gone. It's the Punisher, Aristides Aquino, and his 39 OPS plus.
I'm still taking Aquino.
You love outfield assists, huh?
Yeah, I think I do. And he can occasionally run into one. Oh. It's funny. You can always tell the people that are, of a certain vintage because we talk about prospects, and people of a certain generation will say, "Oh, Brandon Larson, he was supposed to be a great prospect. He never panned out." And people of another generation will say Paul Householder because he came up young for the Reds, and they thought he was going to be great, and he wasn't great. So you could actually make an argument that the 1982 Reds get all 3 of the outfielders in this comparison. My goodness, please no.
We're having fun.
We're having fun, Nate. Can we go to the next question, please?
Please.
Next one comes from Kyle Kapler. Kyle asks this: could you make an argument that Luis Castillo, first of all, Luis Castillo, rest in peace. Thank you. Just a moment of silence there. Was a reason the Reds didn't make the playoffs last season. And first of all, I say that's ridiculous, but then he continues. Before you say no, look at his stats in April and May. So you know what I did? I looked at his stats in April and May of last year, and I remembered it being bad. I don't know that I remembered it being this bad. 11 starts. He went 1-8. The Reds lost 10 of the 11 starts. 7.22 earned run average from April 1st to the end of May. So listen, that's not good. So I guess my answer to Kyle's question is yes, you can make that argument. But I think I could make an argument for 100 different things that also were reasons the Reds didn't make the playoffs last season. So, Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, you can say it's a reason. You can make an argument for anything. Certainly not the reason. But seriously, I mean, as bad as he was the first 2 months, you can't weigh them that heavily and not also weigh how outstanding he was for almost the entire rest of the season. I mean, 3 of the next 4 months, he had ERAs under 2.4. In June, 5 games started 1.71. July, 6 games started 2.15 ERA. He was just lights out. Everything balances out over the course of the season. You replace those incredible 3 months with the Mike Minors of the world, they're going to lose a bunch more games. So baseball's fun like that. The averages end up working most of the time.
Yeah, the rest of the season, June through October, wow, 2.73 ERA. So, kind of vintage Luis Castillo. I think Kyle's not wrong. You absolutely can make that argument because he was bad. He was just so bad. But he was a reason. He was not the reason, I think is the answer to that question. All right. Next is one from one of our buddies. And Nate, if you don't mind, I just want to hear you read this question out.
Rude. This next question comes from our buddy Joe Farsing. You guys may remember Joe from seeing his pretty face 2 of the last 3 episodes and as a regular contributor here. Joe asks, Castellini or Rachel Phelps from Major League? Who's worse? And why is Phil the most punchable douche nozzle?
Well, first of all, let's take the second part of that. Why is he?
I don't know. It might be the hair. Maybe his face. Could be the words that come out of his face hole. Just everything. Just all the things.
All of it. Yeah.
Him. His essence.
The essence of Phil. I would buy that cologne. The essence of Phil. Smells like cocaine and hookers. Yikes. I hope this doesn't record. I hope this episode doesn't go out. The other part of that question, Rachel Phelps, Major League, I think I prefer Rachel Phelps over the Castellinis because at least she is pretty upfront over the idea that we don't want to lose. We're trying to lose. We don't want to win. We're trying to lose because I want to move to Florida. Which whereas the Castellinis, they won't admit it out loud. What do you think, Nate? Which do you prefer?
Yeah, at least she had a plan. You got to appreciate that.
That's true.
Also, not to be forgotten, very important. Former Vegas showgirl, so that's fun.
I don't know. I want to see that cardboard cutout of Bob Castellini in the Reds clubhouse where they're taking a piece of clothing off every time they win a game. All right, Joey Gaditza, not a question. So why are you submitting this to a viewer mail podcast? But quick shout out to the Riverfront panel for always making this fun, even if this season has been a disaster. Thanks, guys. No. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Gary Hilliard. Okay, this is the best question. We need to try to run through this as quickly as we can, but this is a fun question. Gary, you win the award this week. The trades made this week all but guarantee that Joey Votto will never win a playoff series. Will he be the best player in MLB history to have played 15-plus seasons without winning a postseason series? Now, The answer is no, as we'll talk about in a moment. But let me give it a little context, first of all. You can make an argument that a modern-day player would be the best player because there are more opportunities for modern-day players to play in the playoffs. Until 1969, the only chance you had to get into the postseason was to win the pennant of your league, which meant you had one postseason series. You were in the World Series. And so for many years, there weren't that many playoff series to win. So after 1969, and then certainly after the wild card era, the Joey Votto era, more playoff opportunities. So, but still, although Joey Votto is going to be one of the greatest players, he's not the greatest player to have never won a playoff series. We had some fun researching this, Nate. I'm going to let you pick the first one, and we'll go back and forth.
Well, first one's obvious. All apologies to Joey Votto, but it's got to be Adam Dunn. Joey's not even the best.
Thank you. Why is Adam Dunn not considered one of the great? I say one of the greatest. I mean, the greatest player of all time. Everything about him was perfect. I don't understand why he's so underrated in baseball lore.
Too handsome.
Have you seen? He's handsome. He's a movie star. He's been in an Academy Award-winning movie. He can hold 2 Bud Lights in one hand.
From the bottom.
He's perfect in every way. Okay, just for a moment here, can we? He's not departed, but I just want to take a moment. We all need to take a second here to reflect upon the greatness that is Adam Dunn.
Call it Dunn break.
He's dreamy. All right, okay. So he's one. Yeah. Who else?
So the city of Chicago had some rough years apparently, but they had some legit contenders. Fergie Jenkins.
Fergie Jenkins is a good one.
Totally familiar with until I looked this up a little bit. Luke Appling for the White Sox, another one. And then there was another fairly common name, Ron Santo.
Yeah,
which I think most of our listeners will know about. Those 3 stuck out a lot, and it was kind of hard to look these up because it was easy to find out people that have never made the playoffs. But making it never won a playoff series is an extra level there that made it a little bit tough. So I'm sure that there's more names that we'll come up with. But who are some of your big ones?
Yeah, no, I mean the Cubs are the obvious. I looked at the best wins above replacement in history, and then tried to figure out which ones hadn't made the playoffs. At that, I did way too much. It was actually kind of fun to do this research, and so I had a Cub was one of mine, and we can argue about whether he's better. I don't put him ahead of Joey Votto, but Ryan Sandberg is a Hall of Famer who was a Cub who never won a playoff series.
That's a good one.
One that on our most recent episode that you pointed out to me that for whatever reason, I don't know how I forgot this guy. But Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks, he's got to be inner circle, right?
I think he's the definite answer for a guy that's better than Joey. But Joey's got some time left. We'll see.
Yeah, no question. Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub. But there was one big name that never won a postseason series that I think is there are 2 names I think are at the top of the list. This is one of them. It's Tyrus Raymond Cobb.
Old Tyrus.
Also known as Ty Cobb. He was Tyrus back when he was in vaudeville. A little vaudeville joke for you there, Nate. Doing some vaudeville jokes here.
It's late.
Ty Cobb played in 3 World Series. Again, this is before the playoffs. Played in 3 World Series, but he was 20, 21, and 22 when he played in those. Lost twice to the Cubs and once to the Pirates. Never played in another World Series after age 22. And he played until he was 41. I mean, the guy played 24 seasons. So you got to think Ty Cobb, if we're talking about best players never win a playoff series, got to be up there, even though he didn't have as many opportunities. And frankly, if he had as many as current day players, he would have. Do you have anyone else that I've got a couple that I want to mention, but do you have anyone else you want in particular?
No, that's pretty much it. I want to highlight the, we feel bad for Joey, but the Cubs have had some rough times.
Yeah, but screw the Cubs. Who cares?
Also true.
Yeah, stupid Cubs. Is there a modern day player, perhaps, Nate, that's still playing other than Joey Votto?
We've
There's
got a
one.
few years before we get to 15, but we may be in danger. Baseball fans may be in danger of not seeing Mike Trout win a playoff
Maybe the
series.
greatest player ever when it's over. Yeah.
Heaven forbid that does not come to pass.
It makes me sad. I mean, Joey Votto makes me sad in a different way, but Mike Trout is like the GOAT. I mean, he's like amazing. He's played in 3 postseason games. Lost to the Royals back in 2014 in the American League Division Series, but only batted 83, so he's clearly not clutch.
Overrated, that Trout
Completely.
guy.
Yeah, not over. He's underrated, if anything. All right, 2 more before we get out, because I do want to mention Rod Carew. Rod Carew played in 4 postseason series, Hall of Famer. And if you don't know Rod Carew, you need to learn about Rod Carew. That dude could hit. Twice with the Twins, twice with the Angels. Great player, never won a postseason series. Do you know anything at all about Rod? A little before you. What do you know about Rod Carew?
Well, he's the big winner because while he may not have won a playoff series, he is the only person on this list that made an appearance in an Adam Sandler song. That's how I knew he was a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer Rod Carew. He converted. The Hanukkah song. Adam Sandler, yes. One last one I want to mention quickly, which is a guy that's not a Hall of Famer, but he's one of the 2 biggest snubs from the Hall of Fame as far as I'm concerned. One of those is Sweet Lou Whitaker from the Tigers. Complete joke that he's not in the Hall of Fame. And the other guy is this guy, Bobby Gritsch. Nate, have you ever heard of Bobby Gritsch?
I think you're making him up.
Bobby Gritsch played for the Orioles and the Angels, and I don't know, maybe he's this is a I don't know if he qualifies or not for this question, but Bobby Gritsch played in 5 postseasons with Baltimore and the Angels and lost all of them. But he may not qualify because he actually does have a World Series ring. In 1970, he was a 21-year-old with the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles, of course, beat the Reds, the Cincinnati Reds, in the World Series in 1970. No, seriously, the Reds were in the World Series. You just got to trust me on this. Go look it up. But Bobby Gritsch didn't play in that series. So he has a ring, but he never won a postseason series in which he actually played. But we may have to ask the Gritsch family to weigh in on this one. I don't know, but I'm going to put him as one of the best players.
I think that's fair. We need to ask Bobby Gritsch if he feels like he won a playoff series.
You think that the bat signal goes up whenever Bobby Gritsch's name gets mentioned on a podcast, and his whole family gathers around the YouTubes to see what somebody's saying about Bobby Gritsch?
Is that how Google Alerts works? I'm not sure.
I think so. I don't know. The interwebs make no sense to me. All right, so that was a great question, Gary. I spent way too much time. Both of us spent way too much time trying to look that up. Joey Votto is among the best to have never won a postseason series, and the sad fact is, unless he gets traded, he's not going to win one. And I don't want him to be traded. Last question from our Patreon crowd. It comes from Thomas Dennis. This brings up a topic that Nate suggests. Actually, we talk about at the top, and we decided not to, or I decided not to, and Nate went along with it. But it's a good question. At night as a kid, when the weather was cooperating, Thomas says, I could pick up Dodger games in Montana. He lived in Montana. I have no idea why, but I consider myself lucky to have learned about the game of baseball from Vin Scully. I don't say this to be sentimental, but why on earth did I choose to be a Reds fan? Why? Can anyone help me make sense of that? Well, no is the answer to the last part of that, but Nate, can we take a moment here to celebrate the life and times of Vin Scully, who passed away this week in his 90s, 95, I think. He Dodgers broadcaster for 60 plus years. Just the greatest that ever lived. And man, what I don't know what else to say. We probably should have let off with that because the guy was so great.
Yeah, there's just been some amazing stories going around. So if you've been on Twitter at all in the past couple of days, I'm sure you've seen plenty. But Vin Scully was the GOAT. He was the Michael Jordan, the Wayne Gretzky. He was the greatest to ever do what he did. The only times I would ever listen to the other team's broadcast is when the Reds were playing the Dodgers. There's never been a better ambassador for the game of baseball. I feel blessed to have had 30 plus years of opportunity to listen to him. I feel jealous for everybody that's a year older than me because they got a year more. He could do things with a microphone that no one else has ever done, will ever be able to do again. We were all blessed, fortunate to have had him sort of be the, that ambassador, that steward for the game. And if you're a baseball fan and you love the romantic aspect of the sport, then he's the main reason.
Well, listen, if you didn't get to listen to him, I feel bad for you because, listen, I love Marty Brennaman. Marty Brennaman's been the soundtrack to my childhood, most of my life, and I think Marty Brennaman is as good as almost anyone I've ever heard at describing the action on the field. Just smooth, could tell you exactly what happened. Marty Brennaman is a deserving Hall of Famer. Joe Nuxhall was a different category, and I think Marty Brennaman would actually agree with that. There's never been anyone better. Vin Scully. First of all, he broadcast games on the radio alone. It was just him.
Yeah. Madness.
And and he would weave that sort of description of what's happening on the field, which he was just better than anyone else, but also the guy prepared more than anyone else. He had stories for every player. I genuinely feel sorry for anyone that's a real fan of baseball that didn't get a chance to listen to Vin Scully. Here, I'm going to show my age a little bit, but when satellite radio became a thing, I was so happy because I was able to listen to Vin Scully regularly, whereas you couldn't on the East Coast until that. And then, of course, we get the games on our phones now. And his last few years, I made a point certainly when the Reds were playing the Dodgers, I would listen to the Scully broadcast. But other times when I just wanted to put on a game, how many times I went to bed listening to Vin Scully just because he's Vin Scully and I want to take every opportunity I could to listen to this guy. I don't know what else to say. He's literally, you mentioned Jordan, Wayne Gretzky. He, in his profession, he's the best that ever was. And I can't say the best that will ever be. I don't know that, but I would be surprised if anyone could top Vin Scully. So respect to Vin Scully, even though it was the stupid Dodgers. But if you know, you know. All right, Twitter questions from our friends at twitter.com/Riverfront Cincy, or as in the parlance of our times, at Riverfront Cincy. First question from Mike Petrie at I'm the MDP. Why didn't the Reds do more to acquire Tim Adelman? Hash Brown, Adelman is adequate. It's a reasonable question. Why didn't the Reds go out and get Tim Adelman at the trade deadline?
Everybody's been asking it. He was in AAA Syracuse for the Mets. He was right there. They could have asked for him in the Tyler Naquin trade, and they just didn't. It is front office malpractice, and we should be picketing in front of the stadium.
Yeah, as much as we praised Nick Kroll for some of his decisions he made, this is ridiculous that he forgot to go get Tim Adelman. The Reds are going to need some innings the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Adelman is adequate, and we need some adequate starters. Greg Evers you think is it Evers or Evers? What do you think?
I'm going with Evers. I feel strongly about Evers.
Maybe. I think back to the old early 19th century or 1900s. Tinkers to Evers to Chance, but he's at Greg Evers 2. Sorry you couldn't get the original Greg Evers. You have to be number 2, but you're number 1 in our hearts, Greg. How good will the Reds be next year, and how much will Bob sell the team for at the end of this season? Okay, first of all, from your mouth to God's ears, sell the team, Bob. It's not going to happen. I'll let Nate say how much he'll sell them for. But how good will the Reds be next year? The Reds will lose 95 games next year. That's my prediction. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't watch the Reds because, frankly, there are going to be plenty of things to be interested in. If you've accepted they're going to be bad, there are going to be plenty of things that will be fun to watch. But I think they're going to be bad. I don't see any way we can avoid it. I don't see them spending money to improve the Major League team next year, perhaps the year after. Nate, to you.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm going to be slightly more optimistic and say that they hover around 500 for throughout the All-Star break, maybe just after, and then they'll tail off a little bit and finish in that 90 loss range. So I'll give him 5 more wins than you. But as for how much he's going to sell the team for, Forbes in 2022, that's this year, if you're counting at home, the team was valued at 1.19 billion American dollars. Now, if Bob can just hold out until Mike Moustakas' contract comes off the books, I think that number shoots up to 1.5 bill.
I think
and that's your number right there.
There you go. Well, that leads into our next question from OK Sharon at Datahamo, Dathamo. What do you think is the possibility of Moose's contract being exchanged for another bad contract? Get the change of scenery we all want. Who could match up with that? Now, I know you have an answer to this, but my thoughts are, I don't know that Mike Moustakas is a change of scenery candidate. I think his career's over. I don't see it. But I think you did a little research, Nate. You had an answer to this.
I try my best to find a match. Probably spent a little too much time. Most of the bad contracts right now are pitchers. So I don't think you're going to get a lot of pitchers that think that they're going to have a positive change of scenery in Great American Small Park, except for maybe Sonny Gray. So the only position player match that I found was Jason Hayward. Moose has 18 mil on the books for next year, plus a $4 million buyout the following. Jason Hayward is owed $22 million. He's 33 years old. The Reds are going to need outfield at bats, plays strong defense. Do not know what happened to him offensively. And it's ugly any way you shake it, but the contracts match up. I think if I have to answer the question, Jason Hayward is the fit.
Well, the Reds are going to need some outfield at bats, and even though I'm pretty sure that Jason Hayward retired like 3 years ago, I'm with you on that one. Next question comes from our friend. Again, I don't know. He interacts with us occasionally. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Steve Motion, MOWCHAN at MS Mochan at SMOWCHAN. How much over market value are the Reds going to have to pay for free agents when they finally begin spending again? Considering their history of only trying to compete for a couple of years before another teardown. I don't know. The Reds are, Nate, I don't see that they're going to pay that much over, but you disagree? They'll probably pay some over market value, right?
Yeah, I think they have to pay some. It's the price of doing business for a team in a city like Cincinnati. No shade to Cincinnati, but it's not ranking up there with the Los Angeleses and the New Yorks of the world. Some of these states that have better tax breaks, those are going to be more appealing. An NBA equivalent would be Milwaukee or Minnesota. So you got to pay a little bit more to get the folks, but at the end of the day, the dollar value is what's going to get them there. Did you see Zach Cozart's social media post?
I did, yes.
I do think things like that have an effect. Zach Cozart just said, it's a tough time for the Red Legs and their fans. You have with their model, you have a 2-year window to compete, and then they'll just tear it down again. Obviously, we're hoping that this is not the case this time. But I think that extending those young guys that they currently have could go a long way. If the free agents can call Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson and say, hey, what's the vibe? What's the scene like? And they can then respond, it was bad for a while, but it's gotten better. Things are looking up. Come over here, take advantage of this ballpark, get a lot of home runs, pull a grand jury, and maybe that can get it. So that's a long way of saying, yes, they're going to have to pay more.
Well, and it wasn't just Cozart.
No more than anybody else. I'm sorry.
No, you're not wrong. I just Jesse Winker, Tyler Malley, Nick Castellanos, someone posted all their comments upon leaving. They're all like, I'm glad to go to a franchise that really is trying to win a ring. And that doesn't help. But also money talks, if the Reds are willing to spend the money, first of all, to get anybody, they're going to outbid other teams anyway. So they're going to spend the money. But there may be a subset of players who would prefer to play for a team that has a chance to play in the World Series. And I get that. The Reds are going to have trouble with those guys, but I don't know. I have the bigger problem I have is the premise of when they finally begin spending again, because I'm not sure that's actually going to happen. But this is me being pessimistic, and Nate told me to stop doing that. So he did not tell me that. I told myself that. Drew at Drew Crabtree 12. Oh man. So our buddy Greg Evers, he was number 2. Poor Drew Crabtree was the 12th, but asks a good question. Will Nixon Zell be on the next Reds playoff team? Quickly, Nate, what do you think? Will Nixon Zell be on the next Reds playoff team?
I vote yes. I think he's a free agent. Not until 2026. My glass half full outlook says the Reds will make the playoffs before then. He's cheap. He's controllable. They have no reason to trade him. Yes, Nixon Zell will be on the next Reds playoff team.
Okay.
I was not excited about rehashing this one.
I know. And I haven't changed my mind in the last hour and a half. There is no player, not a single player on the current Reds roster that will be on the next Reds playoff team. That's my hot take.
But just last question, you said you need to be more positive.
Yeah, but Noelvi Marte, he's going to come up and they're going to win like 4 straight World Series. But nobody on the current team is going to be around at that time. That's my prediction, my hot take, man.
I hope that take is cold.
And love it or leave it.
Super wrong.
Matt O'Neill at Matt O'Neill. He's not Matt O'Neill 2 or 12. Would you rather have a rotation of 5 Bronson Arroyos or a rotation of 2 Luis Castillos and 3 Mike Miners?
Regular season or playoffs?
Oh, it's actually it's a different answer depending on – it's 5 Bronson Arroyos for the regular season, right?
Yeah,
that's what
got to be. I want that consistency.
But playoffs, you may want those 2 Castillos, right?
Shrink it down to a 3-man rotation. Castillo, 2 of those 3. I think you have to.
But would you rather fight a duck-sized horse or 12 horse? Wait, I don't know how the thing goes. I can never figure out how that. It's the second straight podcast where I've screwed that whole analogy up. So if you know it, say it.
It's a Mike Moustakas-sized Jonathan India or 5 Jonathan India-sized Mike Moustakai.
Gosh, I'm not touching that one. WV Peaks and Valleys. I don't know what Peaks and Valleys mean. I can't imagine it would be something that our general manager who needs to stop talking might have said. But at WV Red Meat, what's the chance of a beat writer at the beginning of spring training writing an article of how Mike Moustakas showed up in the best shape of his life? And I love you, WV, but I can't decipher the second part of this question. But I will say that if Mike Moustakas, I think his career's over, but I think if he plays somewhere next year, someone will write that article that he showed up in the best shape of his life. Now, that shape may be round. I don't know. But someone will write that article. So it's I would say chances are 92%.
I like it. I don't know. I've been trying to convince the Reds through weekly tweets to fill out an entire roster of thick boys. So maybe we should keep Bruce around.
You have been doing that.
Yeah,
he actually would fit in. Oh, gosh, Nate. You've lost your mind. Mr. Juan Math. Now, the rest of these I don't have Twitter handles for because they didn't follow the rules. I said, give us the hash brown, viewer mail. But this is a good question. What's the worst Reds take? And he says, mine was Felipe Lopez was going to be a perennial all-star for the Reds. And to which I say, that's actually not even close to the worst Reds take. Felipe Lopez made an all-star team. He was young. I don't think that's a terrible take at all. What do you think, Nate? Is there a worse one out there? There's a million worse takes.
Well, there was that time that I said that Kevin Quackenbush would lead the league in saves at least once. That's not aged well.
Fear the mighty Quackenbush. I don't know what the worst take is. Probably something like Adam Dunn is not going to be the best player in the history of the world. That's a bad Reds take.
Terrible.
He ended up being the best player ever. Wayne Krenchicki should start over Johnny Bench. That's a bad take. So, but your take, dude.
30 times in my life when I've convinced myself going into the season that it was going to end well. Those are all bad takes.
Yeah. most of your lifetime, all you that are listening, most of your lifetime, when before the season you were like, it could be okay. That's a pretty bad Reds take. William Harmon. I call him Bill because we're buddies, but William Harmon asks this: what was the highest temperature ever recorded on the Riverfront Stadium playing surface? I researched this, Nate, and I could not get an answer, but I didn't dive as deep into the research as you.
I had some fun, and I didn't want to let this one go by without a real effort. So I don't know what the actual answer is for sure, but I do have a guess. So the hottest day in Cincinnati between 1970 and 2002, the years of Riverfront Stadium, was on July 9th, 1988. The temperature that day was 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. The Reds played the Phillies at home that day, but it was a night game. So temperatures may have cooled off a bit. We don't know. However, on July 27th, 1997, with a high of around 99 degrees, the Reds lost a day game to Greg Maddux in the Atlanta Braves. That was the highest temperature on a day game from 70 to 2002. And just for fun, Maddux went 6 innings pitched, allowing 1 run on 4 hits with 5 strikeouts. So if you count pregame warmups, it's probably that 100-degree day in 88. But if it had to be game time temp, I'm going with the Maddux game in 97. So there you go.
Well, the Maddux game is probably over quickly because that's what Maddux did back then. That's good. I appreciate your dedication to go look into the almanac and finding out the Farmer's Almanac to find out what the all I could find was that January 10th, 1982. This was the the American Football Conference Championship game, AFC, Atlantic Coast Conference is what I started to say there. Wahoo wah. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the San Diego Chargers 27-7. The wind chill that day was 59 degrees below zero. So to answer the Williams question, that was not the highest temperature ever recorded on that day. It was cold.
Facts.
Can we do one more question, Nate, and get out of here?
Let's do it.
From Woodrow the dog. I don't know, Woodrow. Show of hands on who thought Kyle Farmer would outlast Didi Gregorius in a Major League uniform at the start of 2022, let alone 2021. And the parenthetical information here, he puts hands in pocket. Not me, says Woodrow the dog. For context, it's late. We've done too many of these shows tonight. The Philadelphia Phillies, it's always sunny in Philadelphia, unless you're Didi Gregorius, who got released by the Phillies today. And so he's no longer a Philly. So, no, not me. I advocated, and I still think that at the time when he was a free agent, going out and getting Gregorius would have been the right decision. Instead, we've had Kyle Farmer for the last 9 seasons at shortstop, which is fine. I love you, Kyle Farmer, but Woodrow, no one would have expected Kyle Farmer to outlast Didi Gregorius, and so way to go, heart and hustle, Kyle Farmer.
Yeah, those are facts. I do have a theory on this though, and it's that some players are extra motivated to achieve greatness based on their name. Pokey Reese, he worked his butt off to become successful after being made fun of as a kid for being named Pokey. Mike Trout, you think he didn't get any guff with a last name like Trout growing up? Lars Nootbaar, I mean, geez, it speaks for itself. But the opposite of this is also true. And Gregorius is just too awesome of a name. If his name was like D.D. Johnson or D.D. Matthews, Hall of Famer, no doubt. But he was walking around strutting the stuff, the last name like Gregorius his whole life. The world at his fingertips. Too cool for me.
Okay. I'm not sure I quite understand your thesis there. I might need to see your full dissertation on that, but I like where you're going. Nate, we got to get out, man. Any final thoughts?
No, that was super fun. I think we should do these viewer mail episodes more often. It's just great to get everybody involved. And thanks to everyone that sent questions in. You guys, you came in hot. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, great questions. It was fantastic. Thank you. We're at, listen, youtube.com/riverfrontcincy. Go smash the subscribe button. Again, you have consent. Smash it. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're at Riverfront Cincy. Go. I mean, it literally costs you nothing. I mean, we try to get you to come to patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. Send us a couple bucks. You don't have to because we're giving this thing to you for free. Although there are some fun things we do for Patreon. Next week, we're going to do a Patreon hangout, watch a Reds game. There are some fun goodies, but you don't have to do that. Just, go give us a follow or a like, whatever. That's all we're asking. Come on. Nate, this was at one of the top 2 podcasts I've recorded tonight. This was fun. It's one of the 2 best.
Just don't rank it. I don't know if my heart can take it.
Actually, I think we actually ironed out a lot of the difficulties. This was actually a better one, and we still went way too long. Listen, for Nate Dotson and for Nate and I don't know who, Bobby Gritsch or some kind of nonsense. Who cares? I'm Chad Dotson. Go to bed. Good night.